And I was watching everybody else hit 7 figures. I'm like, like, when is it going to be my turn? What is it that I need to do? And I recognized that I was getting multi-6 figures, which was great, but I was operating like a multi-6 figure solo coach. I was the coach. I wasn't being a CEO with a team building assets that were going to grow my business. So I had to cough up the money, right? I have 2 lines of credit that I've personally guaranteed. Like this is real business. If I don't have the money in my savings account, I can't do it. Get real. Most of us don't. And so many of us are stopping ourselves saying, I'm not going to make that investment because I don't have the money in my savings account. Ma'am, when are you going to get this money? When you're working this job, even if it's a good 6-figure job, 90% of your paycheck is being taken up. The system is not designed for you to have excess income. It's not, because the salaries are based on cost of living. So they do determinations on what is your cost of living. They're going to give you a 3% raise to accommodate inflation, and you're getting no more. The system is not designed for you to have all this excess money so that you can invest in yourself. Either you have the money or you don't. Either you came from generational wealth or you don't. For us to turn our nose up and be like, well, if I don't have it, I'm not. What? Chase will give you a $10,000 credit card based on your credit score. Go do that. A banker will give you a line of, go invest in your business. I had this conversation with myself, Courtney, you doing it, but you only half doing it. Are you about this life or are you about this life? You a 7-figure business owner or not? Because you have to be that before it shows up in your bank account. I said, I'm a 7-figure business owner, and I pulled the trigger.
Them niggas scared to make that move. Can't relate to that. I roll the dice, shit. If I lose, I'm gonna be shaking back. Cause lessons learned within the loss just elevate the fact that trial and error just the only way. Ain't no escaping that. I wake up, hit 100 push-ups, then I'm at my route. Check on my stocks, see how they looking, then I'm sliding out. When you start seeing your progression, you stop having doubts. And what's the point of having clout if you can't cash it out? True to this game, and I'm a lifer, ayy. Feel like we finna change the cycle, ayy. That's the most success, you know we thriving, ayy. That's the most depression for our rivals, ayy. Could teach a lesson on survival, ayy. You know I'm from the bottom.
What up, what up, what up? What's good with it, my wealthy people? It is your boy, David, one of the founders of Black Wealth Renaissance. I'm here with my brother from another. Jalen, how you living, dog?
What's up with it, my brother? Man, I'm feeling great. I cannot complain, bro. Today is amazing. I'm feeling amazing. We got another great episode, great guest, so I can't complain, bro.
You already know it, man. Y'all know how we do. We coming back with another amazing installment of the Black Wealth Renaissance podcast. Y'all make sure y'all do what y'all supposed to do. We bringing the content to you, so y'all do what y'all supposed to do and leave us that rating and review. 5 stars preferred. But you leave us an honest rating and review. You know what I'm saying? It helps us grow the show.
We love constructive criticism around here.
Yeah, I'm saying we're trying to be the best of the best, you know? And that's who we bring to y'all week in and week out. And today is no different. So, y'all, we got a phenomenal woman out of Houston. She based out of Houston from Michigan.
Come on, man.
Huh?
I said, and it's Women's History Month?
And it's Women's History Month. Goddamn, boy, you're right. You look at you. You on it today.
Oh, yeah.
Phenomenal woman, originally from Michigan, based out of Houston, doing some amazing work in the life and business coaching space. She is an award-winning life and business coach who is helping people turn their divine gifts into digital gold. That was a bar. I have to grab that one real quick. I said, I ain't come up with that one, y'all. I wish I did, but I didn't. But she's helping people grow and scale their gifts, taking them to 6 and 7 figures. We have none other than Miss Courtney Sanders. Courtney, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, gentlemen.
No, thank you.
So nice.
Appreciate you. Yes, ma'am.
So just to get started, I know I gave an introduction to you in my words, but I always like for you to introduce yourself to our guests.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I've been in this game a long time. I know coaching is, very popular now, which I think is extraordinary and is definitely an opportunity for people to build wealth, which I know we'll talk about. But I got started a long, long time ago in internet years, like back in 2011. So,
that is still pretty early.
I was about to say, I'm like super old head when it comes to this. But I got my start actually in college on accident. As we were talking before, we turned the cameras on. on. I went to HU and I originally had or was pursuing my degree in engineering, but got bit by the entrepreneurship bug. And you all remember Carol's daughter, the hair care company, Lisa Price. Yeah. She came to campus one day and there's this woman that had hair like me and was talking about entrepreneurship. And I was like, that's it. I know I'm supposed to be like doing my engineering classes, but I quit and I, started to build a business. Well, that was the problem. I didn't quit. I still was enrolled, but I stopped going to class and started trying to build.
You quit.
She mentally quit.
Right, I mentally quit, which is not a good idea because I had a scholarship and everything. But, I was like 20. I didn't know what I was doing. But me and a friend of mine who was a chemistry major, I was chemical engineering. We tried to build this business, didn't know what we were doing. But, we started this blog and this website and all of that. The business completely failed and my grades tanked. But somehow someone in the administration saw all of the work that we were doing and trying to start this business. And so they invited me to a very large, even to this day, women's conference. It's this organization called Women's Business Enterprise National Council. It's pronounced WeBank. They, to this day, are still the largest certifier of women-owned businesses. So that was my introduction. Yeah, WeBank. I was in their inaugural student entrepreneur group, and they had a life coach on staff. And I didn't know what a life coach was. I thought a coach was like a football coach or something like that. But I went there and I had all this shame because I knew that I wasn't going to class and that I was about to get this letter in the mail talking about my grades and everything. And all the other young women who were there who were students, I just imagined that they had great grades and they deserved to be there. But this life coach, she had us do this exercise before we left where she said, I want you to write down your goals, where you're going to be in 12 months, and I'm going to mail this letter to you. And so I took her seriously. I think I might have been the only one that took her very seriously. And so I worked really hard to turn everything around that year. And I started blogging, not about this hair care business that I was trying to start before, but about personal growth, personal development, et cetera. And the blog really took off. And not only did other young women my age at the time see it and start asking me oh, can you coach me, et cetera. That same organization, WeBank, came back and said, hey, do you want to facilitate next year's program? Because we're so proud of what you've done. And I was like, what? This is crazy. So I went back for a second year. And this time I was the student leader. And then the third year, they asked me if I wanted to submit for an RFP. I didn't know what that was. I had to Google request for proposals. But it was a large contract. And, they were like, you can bid on this based on the work that you've done already. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I ended up not getting it, but I was shocked that, I didn't have a certification at the time in this. I was self-taught, teaching myself these things, just trying to get my grades back up and get in school and not make this life coach, embarrassed and, really do all of this stuff. And it just really grew from there. So that kind of put a bug in my ear, wow, if you learn and are good at personal development and self-mastery, people will pay you for this. These people always pay me a lot of money on this RFP in order to do that work. So I started to do that on the side. I graduated. I started working for the federal government in finance and banking. And I was building this coaching business up. And at the time, online coaching was just starting to come into fruition, but it was a lot of events. Remember women's empowerment brunches? And it was a lot of
before the world went all the way online.
Right. Yeah, it was all these brunches and events and different meetings. So I was taking every Friday off to fly somewhere and speak. And it was funny, I would tell my boss, I was like, yeah, my friend's getting married. And she was like, you got a lot of friends, getting married. But I was just traveling everywhere, burning through PTO, just trying to, build this business, start to meet clients. I got the opportunity to speak at the White House, which was crazy, just about, women's entrepreneurship and everything that I was building online. And it got to the point where I was starting to make more on the side with that than I was, with my full-time job. So by this time, I'm newly married. My husband and I, we had bought a house, and he's like, look, you can quit, but only when you make this much money. And I was like, I
challenge
right? You don't have to tell me twice, right? Say less. So I worked really hard and started enrolling clients. And I think because I always remember I quit Labor Day 2016, so I walked out September 5th, but I put in my 3 weeks notice in August, and I had made more in July and August in my online coaching business than I would have for the rest of the year working in my good government job. I was on a leadership track. I was making nearly 6 figures, and that was it. So I had all the money. I came to my husband and I was like, can I quit? And he was like, yeah, you can quit. And so I quit. I've been doing this full time ever since. At the time, I didn't have a certification. Now I do have a certification. Not only am I a certified life coach, but we certify other people who are trying to get into the coaching industry. We're accredited by the Association for Coaching. And so it's just really grown. I have an international team all over the place. Half my team is based in South Africa. And yeah, I'm just super passionate about helping people take their innate knowledge and use that to start a business. Because I know there's a lot of different things that you can do. You could do real estate, you could do brick and mortar, whatever. But I think people forget like their gold mine, right? Like what's in between their ears. And so I'm like, just take that. There's a lot of people who would pay you for the things that you know, learn how to coach them on that, and then use that as a snowball to get into other wealth activities, which I've done, such as real estate or starting to invest in other businesses, et cetera. It's just like the seed that, you know, everything else grows from, because that's been the case for me. So that's my story.
You just,
I'm glad you shared it. And I want to go back because you shared, and it's a lot of things that we're going to dive into.
We definitely got to pull apart.
I want to go to the blog, right?
Okay.
Not the first one. It's like you said that you started a hair care business.
Yeah.
You had a blog associated with that?
I did. But that's how I learned blogging.
Okay.
So, and I'll say that too, because I think sometimes we like, oh my goodness, you fail at something and we just completely discard it.
That's what you get those skills that transfer over.
Yes, that was back in like 2007, 2008, 2009. Transferred into the skills where I started the blog, the second blog, which would eventually become my life coaching business in 2011. So nothing's wasted. You know, you just have
everything compounds.
Exactly.
I always look at it that way. I say that even with us in our journey, when I first learned a lot of skills about social media, it was on a failed page. Like you probably go look for, you'll never find it. It was like a football page that like, but you learn in the arena. You can learn theory all day, but whenever you start actually doing things, that's when you get it.
Yeah.
So now kind of getting into that second blog, right?
Yes.
So you start the blog. What was the focus of that one? Was it?
It was my like personal development journey. It was kind of, it wasn't like how we think today, like, oh, what is your niche? It was like me. Hey, it's me, y'all. I'm this girl, this young woman trying to get her scholarship back together. I know I need to do better at self-discipline, time management, all of these self-improvement things. So I'm going to document my journey as I improve myself, and I'll post my results. And that's literally what I did. Like, as I was getting my grades back up, I posted my results. As I was getting out of debt or saving up money, I posted my results. As I was trying to start businesses, and people literally watched me. Like, I have people in my audience now and many clients of mine who literally were like, I remember when you were like 21 doing hair care videos in the bathroom, and then you were like doing this blog talking about how you were going to get this job and you're going to save up this money. Like, they've watched me the whole way. And so it adds a level of credibility, like these principles work. And so I took a lot of what I was learning from self-help books, famous ones, Think and Grow Rich, et cetera, applying it, putting my own spin on it, and being unapologetic about who I was as millennial, young Black woman, whatever. Like, I just was how I was. And people were like, wow, I really relate to you because, I'm reading these self-help books from, I don't know, Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins, whatever, shade thrown.
That was written years ago.
But they're like, I can't relate to it. And they're like, when I read your content and you teach me like how you did it in a way that works for you, like that works for me too. And so that was kind of how things started to grow, just really in my lane.
Was that a form of like therapy for you, or did you use that as like journaling?
Kind of. I'd say more than therapy, it was a form of accountability for me. So my start really started to take off when I focused on self-discipline. So I didn't know that was like a thing that a lot of people struggled with. I didn't know that I was eventually going to be able to even charge for that or start getting coaching in that arena. But I started talking about self-discipline, and I actually got a leg up from, I don't know if you all are familiar with Myleik Teele, the founder of the former, it was not a hair care brand, but it was like a subscription box, Curl Box. She recently just shut it down.
I've heard of Curl.
Yeah, she's amazing. And at the time, Curl Box was like blowing up. And she also talks a lot about self-discipline, but I mean, even now, but at the time, she was well established and very successful in all the things. And so I was writing about self-discipline, and my audience was like, oh, you remind me of her, of Myleik Teele.
Gotcha.
And so I like tweeted her one of my posts once, and she saw it and she was like, oh, this is really good. We should do like a challenge together. So I forget when it was. It was probably back in like 2015, 2016. But we did this self-discipline challenge, and, she brought her audience. I brought my small audience. But from there, it just blew up. And so, I sold at the time it was called my 21-day No Excuses Woman Self-Discipline Challenge. So many women joined that. I think even to this day, I've probably had over 30,000 women like participate in that program. And that was really like the seed that took off, because people watched me be self-disciplined as I was getting my life together out of school, and then staying self-disciplined while I was working this full-time job, building the business on the side. I was sharing my coaching principles in this program, and people just joined. So
I love it.
I think that this is.
I want before you get into it, Jay, I just want to add one thing. I think what you're sharing right now is so important, Courtney, because like the reason you're able to see the success now is because you documented the process.
Yes.
And that's all I want.
So I got a question with the discipline thing, right?
Yeah.
And this is not to sound sexist or anything, right?
Okay.
A lot of times men will say women lack accountability or they can't admit whenever they're at fault or something like that, right? How were you able to connect with the women to get them to accept you're not perfect, my girl? Like, or these are some things that you have to overcome so you can become a better person, a better version for yourself.
Yeah, no, I think inherently understanding the female perspective. I think for men, you guys can be like very analytical and kind of like
cut and dry.
Cut and dry, like what is all this emotional stuff, whatever. Women, I'm not going to say we're emotional, but we are in tune with our emotions, right? And so me being a woman, recognizing that some of that emotion came from identity, right? And even to this day, I do a lot of work on identity. If you do not see yourself as this type of person, all your emotions, all of your actions, all of your behavior is going to come from that. So for me, it was helping women reorient their identity first. And then it's like, I do things not because I'm trying to get this outcome. I do these things because I am this person, right? And so
that's good.
Even for me, when I was, getting my grades back up and then saving money and then trying to be an entrepreneur, I would talk about how, not that it was easy for me to get up at sometimes 3 or 4 in the morning to work on my business before driving to work, but I would talk about how even when I had a full-time job, I identified as an entrepreneur, and I literally would say to myself, my full-time job is my my only but my best paying client right now, right? So I am not driving to work. I am driving for a client site visit. And when I am done with this client site visit, then I'm going to work on my business. And I would take my lunch break and I would work on my business because I was an entrepreneur even when I was working full-time. So I think helping women realign their identity and giving them permission. I think that's another thing. Society kind of doesn't allow women to be how we are, and we're kind of looking for permission. I think my blog and then eventually my programs really helped women give themselves permission to be who they wanted to be first in their mind, even if everything around them didn't say you were that, right? So, and I know we'll talk about wealth and all of that, but I felt like a millionaire before I was one, right? Because I operated in that identity. I operated in the identity of an entrepreneur. I operated in all these identities. And I think women felt really excited about that. And so I didn't have to speak to the emotions or be like, don't be emotional or whatever. The emotions just fell in line because now my emotions were that towards my goal, right? So.
I think you need to help men understand that part.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It goes for both genders, but, I just inherently know that women struggle with those things, so that's what I spoke to.
So
I like that.
So kind of on this this self-discipline piece, right? I know you mentioned like during your journey, that was one of the things that you documented, like you disciplining yourself. In your coaching experience, what are some things that you've seen that like or some things that you could say help people lean into or become better at self-disciplining themselves?
Yeah, you have to get quick, small results so that you build up a track record. I think, that's like the old saying, you eat an elephant one bite at a time. I don't know who's eating elephants, but I think people get overwhelmed by everything that they're trying to do, right? I want to have the #1 podcast, whatever. And then it's like, let me go get a studio and get whatever audiences and blah, blah, blah. And you can't do all of that. It's like trying to scale a skyscraper in one leap. You just can't do it. And then people feel defeated. And that's why they're not disciplined. If you could take a small action and really celebrate something that feels so small, you would be shocked at how the discipline kicks in because the identity kicks in. In fact, I can't remember the podcast, but it was a Black couple who eventually paid off their mortgage. And I remember listening to this years ago. And I was so inspired because they said they made a commitment that they would always be the type of couple that paid more than their mortgage. And so in the beginning, it was just like $20 more, or like $10 more, whatever. And they felt dumb, like writing this check and sending it to the bank. But again, that identity kicked in and they started to see the small gains of that interest going down and that principal going down, that it gave them the juice that they needed to do more. So I think sometimes we're looking for like the big push and you're not that person yet. You'll get there when you do the small thing and kind of like trick your brain into believing like, oh, I am this person, right? So.
I get you.
Mhm.
Cause I didn't think about it like, wait, one thing our journey I'm on,
Mhm.
me and
Yeah,
Jalen
both
both, we in here,
of us, yeah.
we trying to get super sexy, you know what I'm saying? I'm
Yeah,
trying to get my
Get
muscles
swole.
all right,
Yeah.
yeah, swole. But you didn't get big overnight.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get big overnight, shit.
Mhm.
So if you sit here and you think, oh, I'm gonna go to the gym and I'm looking in the mirror like, oh, I can see it happening right now. That's not how that works.
Yeah.
Like you gotta, I see what you're saying about the identity. If I identify as a person that goes to the gym
Mhm.
versus somebody that's dieting, or if I identify as somebody that eats healthy,
Yeah.
it'll help build the process.
And the identity is easier to take on when you tie it to a responsibility that's actually greater than you. So I actually had, I don't want to say a similar challenge, but after I had my second child, my daughter, I was feeling lazy because I'm like, this is a lot. These 2 kids, she's waking me up in the middle of the night, but I wanted.
I just had my
Yeah,
first
yeah.
child.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's a struggle, right? But, by this point, I'm like doing YouTube videos all the time, podcasts, whatever. I have speaking engagements. I'm like, oh, I want to get back into my clothes and, be my normal size. And I'm giving myself grace because I know people are like, oh, don't shame new moms. I wasn't shaming myself, but I was at a place where I was like, I felt ready to start working out again, but I just wasn't because I was just feeling really lazy. And so I had a discussion with myself and I was like, what is this? And I recognized that I was identifying more as like this tired, haggard new mom than I was identifying as a CEO, as a public figure, as someone who now has a responsibility. I have an audience, I have a team, I have there's a lot that goes into me showing up as my best. It's not just on me, it's not just on my children. Like I have employees that work for me, like I have to show up. And so when I just made the decision of I'm actually not a haggard new mom. I am a new mom, but I'm a public figure. Like, what would another public figure do? Like, they would get on the bike. I have a Peloton. I'm a Peloton mom. So I just started getting on that bike. And I worried less about the results. It was not like, oh, I'm going to start working out and checking the scale every day. Am I down to my size? It didn't matter. Like, I didn't care if I lost weight or not. Like, this is what I do. Like, I work out. I'm a public figure. Like, I wear these clothes. Like, this is how I show up. And when I ignored the results and just focused on the identity and started behaving according to who I was and reminding myself the responsibility and all the things that were attached to me, it was so much easier to show up. So
I love that because once again, with the weight thing with us, one of my big things, I love food. Like I'm a foodie.
Should be 2 seasons.
Yeah, it should be 2 seasons, dog. So I'm over here standing outside. I see Bonchine across the street and I love their fried chicken. But a trick that he told me, he was like, bro, whenever you want something, just say yuck. Be like, that's nasty. But I also asked myself, is this what the 190-pound version of yourself would do?
Right.
Is that what they would do? Would they go ahead and just eat all of these things?
Yeah.
No, they would make healthier choices.
Sure.
So that's the way that I trick myself as well.
Absolutely. And again, getting clear on how do they handle those things? Like I know for me, I'm a foodie too, but I also identify as this public figure and I have to, be healthy. And even beyond that, now as a CEO and having a team and stuff, it is physically taxing on you, the level of stress that you have to carry. So I use working out and eating right and all of that.
Stress reliever.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So for me, it's I'm not going to deny myself. For me, it's a glass of wine or whatever, the Korean fried chicken, that kind of thing. But I'm not going to eat it. I'm just going to taste it, right? So this morning, my husband brought donuts for the kids because they love donuts. My daughter was crushing this donut. I'm like, that looks good. I cut myself a little piece and I tasted it because I was like, this is great.
You don't have to deprive yourself.
Yeah, I tasted the donut. I didn't eat the whole thing. I gave the rest to her because, she's a kid
Smart.
and she's going to want, right? So I'm not going to gorge on the whole thing. I taste it. But my identity is, but I eat these things, right? I eat healthy. So that's how I eat. Yeah.
I love that. You got your next question?
Yeah. One thing that we spoke on, we're talking about identity right now.
Yeah.
We talked, this is Black Wealth Renaissance.
Mm-hmm.
I think I seen you mention this before. It was some things that wealthy people do that people who aren't wealthy don't, just in terms of habits. Can you kind of get into some of those things that you've observed?
Oh, man. I think the biggest habit is wealthy people are less concerned with the price as they are the ROI, right? And I noticed that was a bad middle-class habit even that I had where dismissing things outright because it's too much. And it's no, it's not too much. What is it that you're trying to get? What is the return for this? There's money everywhere too. And I think that's another mindset that wealthy people have is if I don't have the money, somebody else has the money. I mean, especially in America, and I travel abroad a lot. I do work in South Africa. I have team. They marvel at us. They're like, you Americans are so lucky. You mean to tell me that if you want to start a business, even if you don't have any money, as long as your credit score is halfway decent, somebody's gonna give you a credit card, whatever.
$100,000, $200,000
for nothing.
Yeah.
Like no assets, no collateral, and you can go start. Like I literally just got back from South Africa 2 weeks ago. Like mind blown. They're like, how is it that you guys are able to do this? And I think so many, middle class people who want to be wealthy are trapped in this mindset of like,
I have to pay it outright.
I have to pay it outright, and if I don't have the money, or if it's just a lot of money, it's just so expensive. It's like expensive compared to what, compared to the return that you're gonna get, then it's not expensive. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's this fearlessness of making those moves, knowing yourself, trusting yourself. I think part of it is if you have that track record of discipline in other areas, right? So I'm a little bold with my money moves, even before my business was to where it was, because I trusted myself because I knew I had a track record that when I told myself I was gonna do certain things, I did it, right? So when I said I was gonna pay this credit card off, I paid it off. When I said I was gonna start this business and quit my job, I started this business and quit my job. When I said I was gonna get back into whatever, my pre-pregnancy dress, I got back into it, So when I see an opportunity and there's risk associated with it, I feel confident to go after it because I have a track record. So I think it's identifying, do you need to build up that track record so that you have self-trust? And once you have self-trust, go after the opportunity and focus on the return, not the price,
That's a big one, because especially like that penny pinching mentality when it comes to people whenever you're on that journey. Because like, don't get me wrong, I'm all for being frugal, right? You don't want to just waste your money and be out here spending all wine time. Don't go in the club spending $300 on a bottle if you making fucking $60,000 a year. Yeah. But like, you gotta look at, like you said, that ROI, because if you start going cheap all the time, I've always been a believer that cheap costs you more in the long run.
It does.
You're gonna buy it 3 times over because you bought cheap the first time versus going ahead. Shit, I did it with laptops. I bought 3 cheap-ass laptops. I bought 3 cheap-ass laptops, and them laptops was trash. And I kept
last a year.
They last a year, and it's like, dang, if you just go and spend the $1,000, $1,500 on a good one, you don't have to worry about this for the next 5, 10, 15 years.
Yeah. I actually have
15 years.
Hey, man, listen, I know 15 long. That's it.
If it's a MacBook, it'll last. But I actually have a story about that I will tell my clients when they're like scared to charge, what they're worth and their prices and all of that. I'm like, a lot of wealthy people or clients that have money or people that you could be speaking to are actually turned off by your behavior, but they'll never tell you because you're not acting like them. And oftentimes a premium buyer like wants to work with a premium seller or a premium business owner. And if you if it's not the same, they're like, just never mind, And so I remember for me back in like 2016, it was Black Friday was coming up, and my MacBook, I had it for a long time, but it was like on its last leg. And I was like, dang, I need to go get this, upgrade my MacBook before I start doing my Black Friday promotions. I had like webinars and stuff scheduled because I was like, I don't want this thing to die while I'm in the middle of like a live training or something like that.
Time machine, baby. I love time machine.
So I go to Best Buy, and it was like beginning of November, and it's like the sales guy, he's young in his 20s, whatever, probably like a college student working there on the side. And I'm like, hey, so I want to get a new MacBook. I'm telling him this is my business. This is all the stuff I do. I do a little bit of video editing. I don't know anything about the RAM, memory, whatever. All I know at the time is they were advertising like a i7 core chip or like an i9, right?
Yeah, so I don't know what none of that
me either, but I just knew it was 2 MacBooks, and one had an i7 and one had an i9. And so I was like, okay, based on everything that I gave you, all these specs, like which one is better? And this kid, because he was young, could not give me a straight answer. He kept saying, I know the i9 does but it's $1,000 more. And I was like, I know the price. I researched the price before I got here. I'm not concerned about the price.
I want to know what can it
right.
do for me.
If I get this i7 and it's cheaper, am I going to have these issues, or should I just buckle down and get the i? He could like not give me a straight answer. And then he was like, you know what? Like, doing me a favor, whispering, I wouldn't even buy these laptops right now because, Black Friday is coming up in 3 weeks. Like, these are going to be $200 off. And I was like, Sir, like I just told you why I came here.
I'm not worried about the price.
I was so done. I left and I went to the Mac store because I knew they were just going to tell me just straight out which is the better machine for my needs and just sell me that. And so I think oftentimes too, when we're trying to start businesses, you know, we operate from that place. We sell from this place of timidity. We make, to us, everything is about the price. And we're speaking to people who value their time more than the price, who value whatever return they're looking for more than the price. And we're like disconnecting with them. And they're just like, forget it. I'm just going to go to somebody else. And then we think, oh, my price was too high. And it's like, no, maybe your price was too low, or maybe your communication was
That's good.
poor, or like whatever, you know? So
something I even took from that conversation is also go to the expert in what you're looking for, right? Yeah. Once again, you went to the Best Buy where they're supposed to know technology, but they're not Apple. They're not the Mac store who can tell you this i9 with 8 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabytes it's going to do exactly what you need it to do. Exactly. So I think understanding people's expertise and paying for that is also the value in the ROI that you're going to get from things.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that.
So one other thing that you, I got a thought with that, Courtney, with the pricing situation. A lot of times when we focus so much on price, we put ourselves in a race to the bottom. Like we always, and we've been guilty of before, we sit here and we'll think about trying to make a product, right? And then you want to start thinking about the most bottom of the barrel. I want to help the person who may not have it. Well, God's honest truth is that person is not ready for what you have to offer. So whenever you run across people like that, what are some of the things that you kind of push them in that direction, to push them away from that?
I'm like, the best way to help everybody is to help the ones that can help your business. And then from there, you can help everybody. Perfect example is literally what I do in my business. So we have a coaching certification program right now. It's not cheap. It's not the most expensive, but it's, decently priced. It's on par with other certifications. I sell primarily to the US market. We have people in Europe and elsewhere that buy. But because of what we do, now we have it where we provide coaching completely for free of charge to people in South Africa who would not be able to afford it, with the clients that we're certifying. So I think a lot of us have a heart for maybe underserved or under-resourced populations. And we're thinking like, how can I lower the price so I can sell to them? I'm like, stop selling to them. Just give it to them, Sell to the ones who can pay your price and then use that in order to open up opportunities for people who can't, right? And so it's just a retooling of your mindset.
That's good.
Yeah.
And I have this quote from you here. Until they have bought into why you're doing it, they will not pay for how you're doing it.
That's the truth.
Can you give me a little bit more on that philosophy?
Yeah. We're talking about like Macs and Apples and all that stuff. I love using them as a case study because people, even to this day, who buy Apple computers see themselves, we talk about identity, as creative people, entrepreneurs, people who are going to change the world. I'm building something like big here. That's why they're buying the machine. It's not just, oh, I need this laptop so I can send this email. It's like, I'm trying to do something here. So I'm buying this device because it represents ultimately like my philosophy and my ethos. It's the same thing with everything that you sell, right? Even this podcast, right? I'm not just listening to this podcast to the listener or to the viewer who's watching this because I want to learn about, wealth or whatever. It's because I identify like, yes, like I'm going to be the next like wealthy person in the Black community that's going to do something. Like it's an identity. It's like a community that you're building. And I think that's one of our greatest assets that we have as small business owners and like even solo entrepreneurs. You look at these huge corporations who are spending millions of dollars on celebrity endorsements to try to like take some of their,
just
shine.
A percentage of
just a little bit of their stuff and like sprinkle it on the product. You are that. You're a walking, living, like breathing embodiment of everything that you stand for. And people want to connect with you and people hide. They don't show themselves. And I'm like, that is your greatest asset. What are you doing?
I like that. Whenever you first started to charge high ticket, how did you get over your fear with that?
I was very nervous. Part of it was I paid high ticket, right? So we talk about expertise, how sometimes, no shade to Best Buy, but you just got to go to the Mac store, the Apple store, if you want to know about this device. I was trying to piece a lot of like YouTube videos or like little teeny tiny sales trainings or whatever. And I was like, I just need to work with like a sales coach. So I paid that price. But again, me having this track record of, I believe that if I do this, I've put my mind to things before, I've made it happen. Like if I fail, I'll figure it out. Like I trust myself. I did that, made that investment, learned things that definitely were not like stuff that I could Google. So that opened my eyes to people do have information that's not readily available. So I know YouTube and all of that is amazing, but one, they have information that they're not sharing, but also there's nuances to your particular situation that you need somebody to be like up in your situation in order.
You can't get that from a YouTube
yeah,
video.
like YouTube videos, like they don't know you, right? Like, but when I started working with my sales coach, like she knew my specific strengths, what I was selling, like we were able to tailor a custom approach. And so, I started, I like tripled my prices. At the time I was selling for like $1,500 and no one was saying yes. And I was like, my price is too high. I'm never going to be able to quit my job. And so we tripled it to $4,500. And I was shocked that everybody said yes. Like people said yes so much that I had a wait list. I was selling in probably July of 2016. I had people all the way until January of 2017 who paid $4,500 in full at the time and were like, oh, just don't worry. Like, I'm gonna pay you this money now. Like, we're gonna get started.
Lock me in.
Yeah. Which is part of how I was able to make that much in order to quit my job. And I came to my husband like, hey, I did it, right? And I think part of it too was, I always say, pricing is a part of your promotion, right? So if I'm in a foreign country and I'm shopping and I can't speak the language or I don't know the prices or whatever, but I'm looking at jewelry and I see one that is like €5 and I see one that is like €5,000, even if I don't know anything about whatever else is there, I'm automatically going to say, well, there must be something special about this one that makes it worth that price, right?
Much more. Yeah.
Right. And so if I am looking for something that's like, maybe an heirloom gift that I want to give to my daughter one day, and I want this to be a high-priced piece of jewelry that will pass down, even if the €5 jewelry or whatever is better, I'm going to ignore it because it's not priced appropriately for what it is. And so this is what I tell people all the time. People are ignoring you because there are people who are looking to pay high ticket because they want a high result. Like if you're going to take your spouse or your partner or whatever to like your anniversary dinner, you don't want to go to the place where everything on the menu is like $5. Like you're looking for that steak where it's like, yes, give me the $50 steak. Like, yes, give me like
this is special occasion.
Yeah, because I'm trying to do something here. So even if the food is better, like I'm looking for something here at this price point. So this is where I'm going. And so we do this to ourselves. And so for me, I think part of it was like finally getting a price that was in alignment with what I was actually selling. People who were ignoring me before suddenly started to turn to me and say like, oh, I think you're my person. Because now you're in our league, you know, you're in our lane. And I don't know. I think you just have to kind of introduce yourself to that world. So for me, part of it was paying it, but I think also starting to network, like going to high-end networking groups. Me, I'm the queen of this. Like I will get in a room where everybody is richer than me, everybody's smarter than me, everybody's businesses is bigger than. I love it. Like I love being the brokest, the least smart, the like whatever in the room because I learn so much and I see how people move. And I think if more people did that, they would start to pick up the ways and characteristics of the group that you're trying to sell to who has the resources that you need. So
that's good. You dropping some gems. I give you that. Now I got a question. Like outside of price point, how do you position yourself as a life coach?
Well, the first thing you have to do is position yourself based on something that you've achieved. And so I think a big misnomer in this industry is, and I say this as someone who sells a certification, people think like, oh, I could just go out, get a certification, become a life coach, and then boom, I'm a life coach, right? And while that is technically true, you will be a certified life coach. If you don't have some story, something you've accomplished, and it doesn't have to be big. Again, mine was self-discipline. Like people simply just watched me turn my little situation around in school. I documented it. I came up with this framework around self-discipline that worked for millennial women at the time, and it took off, right? That was my like thing that I had. Everybody has something. I say if you're a working adult, like you're by definition, you're doing something of value. But for most people, it's the thing you overlook all the time. Maybe people come to you and they're like, how do you network so well? How do you make all of these connections? As a new parent, like how do you stay so organized? How do you this? How do you that? You've been married for 30 years. How do you, like it could be something completely unrelated to what you went to school for, what you do at work. But whatever that is, that's where you want to start. And then you build the coaching around that. That's where your positioning is going to lie. It can't just be a generic, like, I got my certification, I'm a life coach. Like, what have you done in life, story, right? Yeah. Like, what have you done in your life that gives you the real credibility to coach me?
Got you. And I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm thinking about these fake ass business coaches now. Let's get on their asses for a second. You know what I'm talking about, man. I see some shit the other day that made me mad. So Reggie sent that to our group. It was David Shan's podcast. Shout out to Shan's. There was this lady on there, right? She had a course that she was trying to sell called From Section 8 to 8 Figures. And she like, I'm going to teach you how to make 8 figures. But she ain't made 100K yet. So I see a lot of that type of stuff going on, especially since the pandemic.
Yeah.
As somebody who's been in the industry for
A long time
now, what's your thoughts on this whole rise of the cap and coach?
Man, I
like that cap and coach.
I love these like little buzzwords. Honestly, I think it's unnecessary. Like, I don't think people realize how much more success they'll actually have by just simply telling the truth about where you are. And I can say that because that's what I did. Like, when I was working my full-time job and I was coaching others, I was admitting like, hey, I'm working my full-time job. And it was based on what people were coming to me for. So when I first started my life coaching business, it was in self-discipline, whatever. I told the story. I had this breakaway hit product program, No Excuses Woman, 21-day self-discipline challenge. People started coming to me and they were like, we watched you like start this blog and then you got all these people to pay you for self-discipline. How are you monetizing yourself online? How are you building a social media? Like, how do you do that? And so I said, okay. So I didn't come out and say, oh, I got this course. It's going to tell you how to do 7 figures, how to quit your job. I didn't do any of those things, right? My first business coaching program was called Blogger to Businesswoman, right? Because that's what I had did. And I walked people through, okay, this is how you start a blog that connects with people. This is here's how you turn into a business. That was the sandbox that I played in. I didn't try to say, I'll help you quit your job because I didn't do that yet. I didn't try to say, help you make 6 figures. I didn't do that yet. I coached on what I had actually did. And I went really deep in that and people were appreciative of that. And that is what generated the testimonials and the referrals and the lifetime clients. I have people to this day who bought that program in 2015 who are joining me now. And they're like, we've grown up together. You don't know it, but I've watched you. And, we got married at the same time. We had kids at the same time. And, almost 10 years have gone by and I have rode with you in every step of the journey. And I do that even to this day. When I quit my job, I turned it into this big celebration. I live streamed me walking out of the office. I had this how to quit your job happy hour. We had one lady flew in from like Japan to be this was in Dallas. Dope. Yeah. I had a how to quit your job happy hour is at like a rooftop at this event. And she flew all the way in Japan because I had watched your journey the entire time. We had been rooting for you. Like if I know that this is legit because I watched it, So all this like whatever, Section 8 to 8 figures and you haven't done it. My biggest thing is that it's unnecessary because there's something that you've done that if you went deep on that, if you went, okay, from Section 8 to 800 credit score, maybe you've done that. There are a lot of people in Section who are just trying to get their credit together who would be like, please go deep on that. You went deep on that, you would have so many testimonials. People would just be rocking with you. And it gives you runway to sell stuff in the future. So even now, I have people coming to me, I don't have a program on this yet, but they're like, how are you building this team? Because now you have a team that's working for you. How are you doing business internationally? How are you and I'm like, yeah, I guess I am doing this. This is a new opportunity. So I'm building up my body of work as I grow and I'm bringing my audience along with me. And I find that it's more profitable in the long run.
That's good. And I just want to stay on the life coach piece. Mm-hmm. It sounds like you get a lot of inbound marketing.
I do. Mm-hmm.
So have you ever had to do any outbound marketing?
No.
Okay. Well, then my question is null and void.
Oh, no.
Because my question was going to say, how do you market to people and tell them that they need a life coach? But it sounds like people are seeking a life coach.
Yes, but I think I do education where people don't realize that maybe this is something that they need. And so I'm kind of educating them on topics that are related to where life coaching would be helpful for them. And then they're like, oh, I didn't realize that, right? Mm-hmm. So even just this discussion about I didn't think up until this time you guys were in the market for a life coach, right? But we've had this discussion about these different goals and eating healthy and losing weight and blah, blah, blah. And I'm educating on, okay, it can't be a behavior change. It's got to be an identity change. Now you're like, well, daggone it. Maybe I should work with a life. I was thinking I just need to get in the gym, but maybe I should have somebody coach me on my identity, right? That's an example of creating education around it. And then from there, that's where the inbound comes in. So it's not like everybody who wakes up in the morning is like, oh, I need a life coach, and they come to me. Some people have no idea what it is that I do or why it's beneficial, but they see my content, they see me kind of break these things down, and then they're like, I wasn't thinking about a life coach, but now I am, and it becomes inbound, you know? So maybe I should call it like subtle outbound.
I should call it like organic. I just think it's organic. Like, you know, as you organically create content, right? You created the blog, you do socials, you have YouTube. People are going to find you through those channels. That's the beauty of the internet, honestly. Like, anybody can market themselves now without that barrier of entry. And I mean, now it's getting a little wonky on social media. I feel like Facebook, you're going to have to throw some bread at it if you want to get your reach. But that it's definitely it's possible, and I'm glad that you mentioned that.
I call it my binge and buy process, right? I know if you binge on my content, eventually you're gonna buy.
Okay, I like that. I like that.
Instead of paying for the marketing, I put it out there. You're paying with sweat equity because you got to create the content. That's the other piece of it.
Yes.
So I got another question with the life coaching part, right?
Yeah.
You spoken and mentioned about the certification a few times, right? And I did see on your page, you're like, you know, you need to get certified. I didn't start off as certified, but you need to get certified. One, what is the certification process like? And then once you answer that, I have the follow-up question. I don't want to confuse.
Okay, so certification is essentially when you're going to learn the science and the practice of coaching, right? So coaching is not telling, it's not giving advice, it's not consulting, right? It's a very specific definition of essentially eliciting the idea out of someone. So one of my favorite movies, you guys ever seen this movie, Inception?
Yeah.
With Leonardo DiCaprio?
That movie always messes me up.
Oh, I love that movie so much, right? But I don't want to spoil it, but for the viewers who haven't watched it, it's basically where Leonardo DiCaprio is playing like this corporate espionage guy who can get into people's dreams and like implant an idea. So
that's what he was doing?
Yeah. So let's say like company A has like a rival with company B, and so they would pay Leonardo DiCaprio to go find like the CEO of company B, get him to fall asleep and like place this idea in his head that he's going to sell the business or he's going to like do something that would ultimately be beneficial to them, right? So I say in a way, coaching is kind of like this in that the results are more effective for people if they think that it's their idea, right? So if you wag your finger and you say, I know how to do this, this is what you should do, like people will buy in initially, but if they don't get the results, then they're going to be like, this don't work, this is scam, da, da, da. And you see a lot of that in the coaching business where people are just throwing their hands up, right? Because you were telling, you were consulting, you were like giving advice, but you weren't coaching. There's like a science to that, right? So a certification is going to show you how to take the wisdom and the knowledge that you already have and disseminate it in a way where it's coaching and that people actually receive it, they run with it, and they can think on their own how to make adjustments that works for them. That's another issue in business coaching is like, I paid this business coach, she told me to do da, 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 and it didn't work, right? Well, did you coach them on how to identify what's going on in their situation and take the tools and the principles and adjust it based on their unique needs, because everybody is ultimately different. So a lot of people don't know how to do that. I got lucky initially because I was like steeped in the personal development world, life coaching, all of that. So when I got into business coaching, I brought that with me. But I think nowadays people need the certification for two reasons. The first reason is that one. And the second reason is because regulation is coming, right? The federal government recognizes the coaching industry. They see all
these capping coaches. They're coming for y'all asses.
I'm just being honest, right? And I was in the beginning stages, I was a huge proponent. Oh, you don't need a certification. I grew my business. I didn't have it. I used to say all you needed was a framework and a methodology. You needed to learn how to create transformation in people, but you didn't need a certification to do that. And you don't technically. Like if you can figure that out on your own, you don't need it. That said, though, I think in today's day and age, it's smart to have it because the federal government is coming. They're serving notices. There's a lot of companies that, I mean, I won't name them, but that are kind of well known in the coaching or internet marketing spaces that are getting hit with really big fines or getting served notices and are having to shut their whole businesses down. So I say if you are serious about being in this business, it's just easier and it's future-proofing your business just simply to get the certification, right? That way you have this credential, you're legit, and no one can say anything against that. And it's not difficult to do. You know, you're going to do everything else. Why not get certified? So.
Might as well. Yeah, it makes sense.
What's the timeline to get certified? Is it self-paced?
Okay, so I don't want to be like, oh, shameless plug for my program. For my program, it's 90.
No, shameless plug.
That's why you here.
Plug.
All right. Well, I'm
Binge and buy.
now, to give some education on it though. So my program is 90 days, which is kind of revolutionary in this industry, and is part of the reason why we structured it this way. So most certification programs are going to take you anywhere from 6 months to a year or longer, because most accredited programs, so there's two parts to a certification. There's the certification, which teaches you how to coach, and there's the accreditation, which is what is the independent third party that looks at the program that you went through and said that's a legit program, right?
Gotcha. Like almost like an auditor.
Exactly. So imagine going to a university that's like not accredited. Like you have this degree, but like nobody's gonna recognize it because it wouldn't.
It's not accredited.
It was just this like fly-by-night university, right? So so for non-accredited programs, I can't speak to that. Like people might say, oh, I can get you a certification in a weekend. Well, I bet you can, because you just making it up. Like it's not.
They went on Canva and made a certificate, said you are now a certified life coach.
Right, like, there's no accrediting body that's going to allow that, because no one can get certified in a weekend, right? So any accredited program that has a third-party coaching body that like has checkmark and approved this program, most of them take 6 months just to get through the training. And then what they don't tell you, because I have people in my inbox with this problem right now, is that for many of them, you get the training, but you're like partially certified. You're not fully certified until you go out and get your own clients and do however many coaching hours. So maybe you need to do 80 coaching hours on top of the certification that you just did to fully prove that you were certified. Then they'll give you your certification. A lot of people spend a lot of money on that process, get the like preliminary certification, then they're like, dang, I can't get the full accreditation. The accrediting body won't give it to me until I go and get these clients. But how do I get clients? This program didn't even teach me how to get clients. It only taught me how to coach. Like, how am I gonna fulfill that? So I literally have messages on LinkedIn right now, people who have gone through programs like that, and they're like, oh, I see you have a coaching certification. Can I coach for you for free so I can get my hours, so I can officially get my certification? So I was like, oh no. So when I decided to do my certification, I said I wanted it where, one, you get done sooner. So we're not gonna do 6 months, we're gonna do it in 90 days. But not only are we gonna do it in 90 days, when you're done. Like you're gonna get your certification and your accreditation.
The hours are built in with it.
Built in. And the way that we do that, and goes back to what I was talking about earlier in terms of stop trying to sell to people who can't afford to just give it to them. The way we do that is we give you safe clients. We work with an NGO in South Africa that gives young people who are trying to get into employment and like grow in their career, because South Africa has a large youth unemployment problem. We partner with them so that our coaches who are going through the certification can coach those young people. So they get free coaching that they ordinarily would not be able to pay for, that's going to help them get to the careers that they want to get to, and is solving South Africa's unemployment problem. And our coaches get their hours inside of the program so that when they're done, they're done, you know?
Hey,
Yeah,
that's
good.
Yeah, that's a fire setup right there.
Yeah, so,
It's a win-win for both parties, because you're helping the people there and the people who are actually going through the program. Because, yeah, that'd be crazy. Imagine going through the whole process, getting the certification, then you got to be like, well, you still got to go get your actual apprenticeship hours. That's
where
what I paid y'all for.
Where do I find these clients, right? And then on top of that, we teach you how to build the business, too. So I just wanted it to be like a win-win program. So
I think that's really dope.
yeah.
So, and what's the name of your program?
It's called the Coach of Life Success Certification and Marketing Program.
The Coach of Life Success.
Yeah, so CLS, like me. But I always tell people it doesn't stand for Courtney L. Sanders. It stands for Coach of Life Success, because that's the designation you walk away with. You walk away with a Coach of Life Success certification. We're accredited. Like, you're good to go.
Dope. So, Courtney, I think I seen this, was it 2022 or 2023? You scaled your business from 6 to 7 figures. It was 2022?
Yeah, 2022 was my first 7-figure year.
Okay, so I want to ask you, what was the things that you had to shift in your business to scale from 6 to 7 figures?
Oh my goodness. I say that even now because I'm like, it's a journey, right? Everybody is like, oh, I want to hit 7 figures. They don't realize the person, the person that they have to become and the work that is required in that. So 2 big shifts. One is being able to come up with a premium offer. I had already started doing premium coaching. Like, I had moved from $1,500 to $4,500 and then on to $5,000. I had a program that was like $20,000 for a year. So charging high ticket wasn't my issue, but my issue was I was involved in the process. I I like had to coach one-on-one with people, and that's why they were paying me this money. So we developed a program where I started hiring coaches to facilitate for me, and that allowed me to scale. So one, I think people don't have their price point high enough. They're on Instagram and everybody's like, oh, if you have a $200 course, you only need to sell whatever 5,000 copies. Like, do the math. And it's like, it's not that easy to sell like that many of these like low ticket things. So if you have higher ticket, you sell less. So it's easier to hit your numbers. But the issue with that, because I was doing that, but I was involved. And so I couldn't like really grow the business. And so this is what people don't realize about 7 figures. Like, you cannot be a solo entrepreneur hitting 7 figures, like, period. To hit 6 or 7 figures, you need a team, like, hands down. And so to get to that level, I had to be the CEO, but I had this dilemma because I was selling high ticket coaching, but I was involved with it, like doing the coaching one-on-one, but I want to get to 7 figures, but I can't do it without a team. And I can't have a team if I'm not a CEO. So how do I do it? So getting me out of that process, and we talk about risk, fronting the money to get people in. So one, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to attract coaches unless my program was accredited, because our coaches all have PhDs. Like, they're like legit. Like, so they're not in this internet marketing world. Like, we pulled them from universities. To get the accreditation, I had to pay a lot of money to an instructional design company who facilitated with so it wasn't just like, oh, I just woke up one day, oh, okay, let me email the accreditation. Like, no, there was a whole process that was involved in that, and it was a lot of money from me up front. So I had to spend like I was a 7-figure business before I was a 7-figure business. So this is why I I'm a very polite person. Like, I'll just let things ride. But when people are like, oh, I can't make that investment or whatever, like, it drives me to no end, because I'm like, you don't understand how much investment someone had to make for you to enjoy the lifestyle that you even live right now. Like, these cameras, these laptops, Wi-Fi infrastructure. And again, as someone who travels all around the world, third world countries, whatever, and I see what people don't have, what makes all of this work is capital, and people risk their capital to build something so that you and I can sit here with this great Wi-Fi in this great commercial building with these cameras. Somebody had to
nice air conditioner.
Come on, somebody had to front the money for that. Like, that is the capitalism. Whether you like agree with it or not, you would not live the lifestyle that you live if somebody did not put capital, millions, billions of dollars up front.
That's a whole. I'm sorry, you just struck a nerve with me. Because whenever people get on social media, especially Twitter, and talk about Elon Musk, I'm like, bro, you're on his app. Talking shit about him. Just don't use the app. I'm sorry, you just hit a nerve with me.
Right? I can't stand Bill Gates. Let me send this Excel file on Outlook like, do you understand how many jobs would not exist if it weren't for entrepreneurs risking capital, right? So me recognizing that, I said, I'm gonna risk a lot of capital to get this certification built, to get it accredited, and then to pay these PhDs to facilitate this program. And I did it before I hit 7 figures.
How much would you say you had to spend?
Easy, $200,000-$300,000. Like, come on. Salaries, legal cost, contracts and stuff to get like. Don't play with me.
You said that instructional design too.
Instructional design.
You probably look at it.
That's probably like $100K by itself.
Thank you. And it wasn't just one person. I had to pay a team, right?
Yeah.
And there's legal stuff involved with, like, there's so much involved with it. But I was willing to do it, one, because I'm thinking in terms of return. I'm acting like my 7-figure self before I had the 7 figures, because I hadn't hit 7 figures for a minute. I went full-time in 2016. I was doing good. I did $100K in 2016 while I was working my full-time job. I did like $300K the year after, kept growing. In 2021, I did $650,000, but I was mainly a solo entrepreneur. I had a few assistants, and I was doing the coaching. And I was like, watching everybody else hit 7 figures. I'm like, like, when is it going to be my turn? What is it that I need to do? And I recognized that I was getting multi-6 figures, which was great, but I was operating like a multi-6 figure solo coach. I was the coach. I wasn't being a CEO with a team building assets that were going to grow my business. So I had to cough up the money, right? I have 2 lines of credit that I've personally guaranteed. Like this is real business. People are like, oh, this is why I'm like, if I don't have the money in my savings account, I can't do it. Like, get real. Most of us don't. Like, we're on a Black Wealth podcast because, especially talking to African Americans now, most of us don't have generational wealth. We're trying to build it. And so many of us are stopping ourselves saying, I'm not going to make that investment because I don't have the money in my savings account. Ma'am, when are you going to get this money when you're working this job? Even if it's a good 6-figure job, 90% of your paycheck is being taken up by mortgage, car insurance, car note, whatever, your student loan, like childcare. The system is not designed for you to have excess income. It's not, because the salaries are based on cost of living. So they do determinations on what is your cost of living. They're going to give you a 3% raise to accommodate inflation, and you're getting no more.
And inflation right now is
right, unless you get like some promotion or go into another field. But even then, you're going to have to invest in getting a new degree or certification or something like that. So the system is not designed for you to have all this excess money so that you can like invest in yourself. Either you have the money or you don't. Either you came from generational wealth or you don't. But what I realized, again, especially going overseas, is that while we might not have generational wealth in terms of money in the bank account, we do have wealth in terms of being American citizens. Like that little blue passport, I say all the time, I'm like, I might not have privilege here at home in America, but boy, I got it when I go elsewhere, right? Like you get treated like royalty, and there's so many opportunities that we don't even realize that we have. And so I'm like, so for us to turn our nose up and be like, well, if I don't have it, I'm not, like, what? Chase will give you a $10,000 credit card for nothing, like based on your credit score. Like, go do that. Like a banker will give you a line of, like, go invest in your business, go invest in the real estate, go invest in whatever. And so I had to have this conversation with myself, like, you know, Courtney, you doing it, but you only half doing it. Like, are you about this life or are you about this life? You a 7-figure business owner or not? Because you have to be that before it shows up in your bank account. I said, I'm a 7-figure business owner. And I pulled the trigger. I started paying for all kind of stuff. And it took a while, but once that stuff was set up and we started selling it, it was a done deal. And here I am. So
awesome.
I think that's dope. I have one last question on that part, right? Because once again, you're removing yourself from the equation and people bought into you.
Yes.
So what was that like to remove that? Hey, you're not working with Courtney. You're working with Courtney's company.
Yeah.
How was those objectives are overcoming that hurdle?
Yeah, so part of it is training the team in your methodology. And, well, I'll say this. The first thing is promoting your methodology more than you promote yourself, right? So I think in this internet culture,
lifestyle,
it's very like I'm the celebrity, like buy into me. And I had to shift that from don't buy into me, buy into my philosophy, right? Buy into how I think, buy into how I do things, buy into my methodology. And once I started to separate that and elevate the methodology above me, then it was easier to say, hey, there's me, but there's also people who have this methodology, who I've trained in it, who can facilitate this for you. Also, that documentation helped me because people have been watching me since college days, since 2011. They see what I'm doing. They see I'm building. They're asking me questions. How are you getting this team? How are you working in South Africa? How are you doing all this stuff? So it wasn't like a shock when I'm like, hey, I have to scale myself out of the business, because they're like, well, we were waiting, like, what took you so long, right? Because we've been watching you scale this. So I think if you have people invested in the journey, I mean, we talk about Elon Musk, it's kind of the same thing, like people putting down payments on the Cybertruck or whatever it is that finally came out after several years, but people were invested in the process of, oh, do we have the things? Is the plant built? Whatever. So by the time it comes out, people are like okay with it. So I think having people invested in my methodology and in my journey more than me personally made it okay. And then also because I'm selling coaching, that's part of our angle, is we're helping people come up with their own methodology. And so I tell people all the time, I want to be a model for what's possible for you, right? Like, do you want to be trapped in your business forever? No, right? So I'm showing you a way to get out of your business so you could be the CEO on your business. So you can't fault me for doing the same. I'm going to show you how you can do this as well, because this is the way of true entrepreneurship. So, yeah.
That's good. That's good. So we're going to shift focus. We got one final question before we go to our next section. Yeah. And this is, once again, you're a mother, you're a wife. How do you manage all of these things and still ensure that you're effective in your business as well? Yeah.
So I'm just be real. I think some women call it like the women tax, the mom tax or whatever. I don't begrudge it, but most of at least as it stands now in our society, the childcare responsibilities, domestic responsibilities, like it just is what it is. It's going to fall on the woman. And so I know there's a lot of discussion about having men step up and, you know, fair play and all of that, which I think is great. I've had those discussions with my husband around like, hey, I'm gonna need you to do bath time, right? Like, I'm gonna need you to take my son to school and out, you know, whatever. So you can divvy up duties, but as a mom, it was I don't want to say a rude awakening, but there's just something about being a mother. Like, even if everything is equal, them kids still coming to you. Like,
Exactly.
it doesn't matter. Like, when they're sick, my husband is very involved. They still coming to me.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so, you know, you can be as equal as you want to, but tell that to the kids.
Certain things is mama activities and certain things daddy activities.
Even with me, like
Mhm.
I'm very active in my son's life. Like I do the bath time and everything, but it's still like I even recognize in my mind there's some things that I can't do that she has it naturally built into her hardware that I can't do it.
Yeah. So the kids, they're just gonna cling to you, you know? So I think when I saw that, because like mentally in my head, I was like, yeah, we had these kids, whatever, it's gonna be like equal. But then the kids are like, we don't care about that. Like, we don't care about these discussions that you have behind closed doors. I want mommy, you know? So I'm like, oh, you know, you have to make accommodations for that. So again, part of the reason why we talk about, you know, investing, raising your prices and all of that, especially for women entrepreneurs, is because part of your business infrastructure, we talk about, oh, you need a website, you need a logo. Well, guess what? You're going to need a nanny.
Mm.
I have a nanny, right? You're going to need a meal prep chef. I have a meal prep chef or something, whatever.
You're going to need something to buy that time back.
To buy the time back. The first investment I made, my husband and I were newly married. We hadn't bought our house yet. We were saving for it, didn't have any kids. I was working full time. We got a housekeeper. She came every 2 weeks. To this day, I tell people that was our first employee. Like, that was my first business hire. I know technically from an accountant standpoint, she wasn't, but I considered her because the reason why to me she was my first employee.
Freeing up that time to clean in houses.
Freeing the time. She was freeing the time. Even if it was just once every 2 weeks, that 4 hours that I didn't have to spend on every other Saturday leapfrogged me light years in terms of building my business. And so as I've built my business infrastructure, I've built my domestic at home infrastructure as well. So yes, I have a nanny. We have a meal prep chef person that comes every Monday and they prep up all the meals. I've paid professional organizers to come and get the pantry together so that we can quickly come and get the kids.
That's something I want to spend some money on.
Yeah, quickly get the lunches. We have a housekeeper. She used to come once every 2 weeks and she came once every week. Now these kids, they're 5 and 3. They tear up my house. She comes twice a week because I'm like, I can't, like, she cleans and in a few days it's a wreck. So I have her come back again, you know? And whatever. My husband, he's an executive for a company here in Houston. He's too busy to mow the lawn and do all that stuff. So he's got the groundskeepers that come and do, you know, the lawn stuff and the yard work. And you just have to buy your time back and not... I mean, again, that's what I'm saying. Like, all this, like, penny pinching, saving money. Like, I feel you. I think we want to be wise stewards. And so you don't want to spend recklessly. Mm-hmm. There's things that I don't spend on because it doesn't bring me value, right? People might look at me and they're like, oh, well, you spend a lot of money on that. I'm like, right, but I don't spend money on this because
what would be an example of this? I'm not spending money recklessly on this.
What don't I spend money on? I don't spend money on, like, expensive clothes for my kids. Like, everything I buy them is basically from Old Navy. I freaking love Old Navy. It's like, my kids are 5 and 3.
You're going to grow out of it.
They're going to grow out of it so fast. The stuff is super cute. I can get all of their stuff at one time. I buy big blocks and seasons for, like, fall, we going to Old Navy. I'm burning down Old Navy, but it's like $500 for both of their wardrobes for the whole season. Like, got pajamas, all this stuff. I go back in the springtime now, but Old Navy, all this, like, and no shade to anybody, but it doesn't bring me joy for my son to wear, like, Jordans. Like,
$200 shoes on a 5-year-old is crazy.
I don't spend, no shade thrown, but I'm like, for what? He's gonna
go play in the mud in them shoes. Yeah. I was a kid before. The kids don't care about that type of stuff.
His foot gonna grow so fast.
It just doesn't matter, you know? But I'll pay for that meal prep chef.
What you say, it makes sense. And I think Hormozy was the guy that he brought it up one time. And I honestly, I disagreed with it when he first said it. But now I'm listening to you and it's kind of leaning me into it.
What part you disagree with?
He was talking about it doesn't pay to prepare your own food at home. Like, from a cost and time standpoint, fixing your own food costs you more than if you just were to buy a healthier option of, like, a fast food or getting a meal prep chef to come in. Because the time that you spend cooking especially if you're doing it multiple times in a week, you could be using that for other things.
And not only the time, I think what women don't take into consideration is the mental like processing. It's like having all the tabs open. If you know, like, hey, I have this free time and I'm working on my business, but come 6:30, they're gonna want dinner. They're gonna want dinner. It's like you can't focus because your mind is constantly.
What I'm gonna cook? Yeah.
Did I pick up the dry cleaning? So for me, I eliminated anything that was like drawing my mind. The only thing I want my mind to be drawn off of is literally my kids, right? Or my husband. So outside of that, like dry cleaning, like they come to the house and pick it up, right? Meal prep chef is handled. Like, and it's giving me, like I'm able to get more done faster because I'm not pausing and saying like, oh snap, what am I gonna do for dinner or whatever? So it saves time and it saves mental energy, which allows you to be like more efficient with the time that you do have, and you end up getting a lot more done.
I like that. And an example I want to bring up is whenever people like hear about big time CEOs and execs, you hear about how much they read during the year. And a lot of people are like, well, how do they have this time to read, or how they're able to do this, right? But it's, once again, they're freeing up their time. They hire a driver for them. Now they can read while they're being driven. They're reading on the plane, or they might have, they're not spending their time like the average person cleaning up, doing all of these things. So it frees up the time for them to do that.
Yeah.
There is one, I kind of want to look at it from the average person. They probably might be like, well, this is a place of privilege or whatever. But once again, it's switching that mindset.
I want to talk about that too, because I knew some people were going to go there. So for instance, I do this retreat in South Africa every year. We go there. The first week I do work in Johannesburg with my team. And the second week I bring clients to Cape Town and we have this great thing. I fly out there either business class or first class. I did first class for the first time in Emirates. It was like amazing. I'll never not do this again, right? One, it's not as expensive as people think it is because I was able to pay for that 100% with credit card points, right? So I'm very strategic about the business credit cards that I use. I'm putting those expenses on those cards. I'm racking up those points. So it's allowing me to do this. But when I had that experience, like, so one thing I was joking with my husband about, I was like, oh, this is crazy. They've tricked us into accepting a lower standard. One of the coolest things about Emirates first class is that the bathroom, right? One, it's a real bathroom, like with a door that opens. You can go inside and like walk around. There's a shower in there. There's a blow dryer.
Shower?
Yes. You can hang your clothes. Like there's like space in the bathroom.
So it's
right?
not a little
No.
porta potty.
I did not even know that was possible on a plane. I thought all planes, even first class, had to have the porta potty. No, they have like a real bathroom. But they have an attendant that, you know, waits for you to do whatever in the bathroom, and then they go in and like clean up for the next person. So every time you go to the bathroom, it's cleaned. And so I was like, this is amazing. But I was joking with my husband. I was like, now they done tricked us into accepting lower standard. Because shouldn't that be the standard, right? Like hygiene wise, shouldn't it be the standard?
That somebody go in and clean up and everything. Yes. And
how much does it really cost to provide that, right? Like
You already got 3 attendants on the plane.
Right. And they're taking shifts doing that, right? So it's not so much that it's an extra cost. And I say that because I think we think that a lot of these things are like, oh, that's privilege and you're turning your nose up and I can't believe you live that way. When I'm like, is it turning my nose up and it's too highfalutin, or is that really the standard? And we've been tricked into accepting a lower standard because we're so focused on the price, right? We're so focused on what is the cheapest cost. And I started to come up with this thinking, even when I was in college. I remember back in the day, because I'm from Michigan, I would fly from DC. I went to Howard, shout out to all the HU viewers, but I would travel back home. And I remember taking 2 huge suitcases and like checking them, and it was free, right? It wasn't just a Southwest thing. That was standard, because if you're flying somewhere, you're bringing luggage. Shouldn't it be the standard that luggage be included, right?
I believe so.
Right? But then they had that whole gas price thing. I think fuel costs were crazy. And they said, oh, fuel costs are so bad. In order to keep the price the same, we are going to start...
reduce the weight.
We're going to start charging you for the bags. Man, that was like 15 years ago. Gas price has been stable. They've never said, oh, the bags are free again, right? They've just kept it at that. Now I look at Spirit, no shade to people who fly on Spirit, because I know it's like a big debate or whatever.
All shades to people who fly Spirit and Frontier. Protect yourself.
I'm like, isn't it crazy that now they're charging you for carry-ons, right?
Carry-ons?
Yeah.
They charge you for everything. They're charging you for air.
They're charging you for leg room.
Bro, and I'm just as soon go buy a better plane
ticket. But I'm saying they do this to the middle class. They get us in a mental state where we're like, I'm going to make myself smaller and focus on like, how can I pay less, right? Versus how can I expand so that I can afford what should have been the standard from the very beginning, right? So now I'm in a place where I'm like, what do I need to do so that when I fly, I'm not using the bathroom right after someone and it's not clean? Is that highfalutin, or should that be the standard? And so, okay, I live in this capitalist society. They're saying this is the price I need to pay. My question is not, oh, y'all need to bring the prices down. No, how do I expand myself so I can generate more value in society, so I can be one of the people where that's my day-to-day standard, right? And I think it's a mental shift of being willing to grow and become the person necessary who can hold those type of costs, versus always saying, oh, it's too expensive for me, I can't afford it. That kind of thinking keeps you small. You never think of how you can do more to afford the life, not only that you deserve, but should be the standard for the human experience. You know what I'm saying? So
I love it. Thank you for answering that so eloquently.
You're welcome.
Yes, ma'am. So we're going to kick gears. We're going to switch over to our game section.
Oh,
this is my
goodness.
first my favorite section of the show. It is
Standing
called
on business.
Standing on Business.
Oh,
Standing on
wow.
business.
And this is a game
Standing on business.
sponsored by Private Small Business Society.
Okay.
In the Private Small Business Society, they are focusing on creating the standard for small businesses to operate in. And we have 5 questions for you. They are all to test your business acumen,
Oh,
just to
goodness.
figure out, if you how you moving.
Okay, all right.
I expect you. I already know you about to smoke this.
I don't know. I'm nervous.
So
Okay.
look, I got you.
All right.
I'm gonna go with the question
You
number
big
1.
CEO energy. I don't know what you're
big
talking
CEO,
about.
you heard me?
All right.
So look, we're gonna go with number 1. Let's go with. All right, number 1. What is the primary purpose of a business plan? A, to guide the operational strategy of the business. B, to keep track of employee performance. C, to calculate the exact profit margin.
A, to guide the operational strategy.
Ding, 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 ding. 1 for
Like,
1.
oh, that
Let's
was
go. Easy money. Let's go. That was
Okay.
number 1. All right,
All
Jalen
right.
got you on number 2.
Second question. What does the W in SWOT analysis stand for?
Weaknesses.
Hey, here we go.
Okay.
You ready, David? Oh, I got the next one.
Okay.
Next question. Which financial statement provides a snapshot of a company's financial position at a specific point in time?
Okay.
Is it A, income statement, B, cash flow statement, or C, balance sheet?
Cash flow statement.
Ooh,
Oh, balance sheet.
It was balance.
Okay.
So what we
We
2 for 3?
2 for 3.
2 for 3. Okay. You still in there. You
All
still
right,
up there.
all
You up there.
Okay.
All right. So
Rushed from my
number
finance class.
4. All right. What does ROI stand for?
Return on investment.
Let's go. We talked about this already in the
Yeah.
show. I love it. All right. So now we are 3 for 4. I'm going to pitch it to Jalen for the last one.
Okay.
Last one. Let's see which one we're going to go with. Did you do the market segmentation?
I did not.
Okay. Which of the following best describes market segmentation? Is it A, dividing a market into distinct groups of buyers with different needs? B, the process of setting prices for products? Or C, creating one marketing strategy for all customers?
A, separating the customers into distinct needs. So
Yes, ma'am.
cool.
Hey, so
All right.
we have another contestant of Standing on Business. She is 4 for 5.
You know what I'm saying? She did the big thing, big CEO energy.
Thank you.
And this segment is brought to you by, as mentioned, the Private Small Business Society. If you are a small business owner, you're looking to get in the community. We talked about certifications on this episode. The Private Small Business Society offers community education and certifications for small business owners. The whole purpose of it is to help educate the average small business owner so that we are operating businesses at the highest level of excellence. If you want to learn more, click the link in the show notes or go to thepsbs.com.
Love it.
All right. So now we're going to get into our last few questions,
Okay.
wrap up. I know we're kind of pushing on time.
It's
We're
a good
getting
discussion. I
getting
love
to
it.
the few. So my favorite question to ask everybody.
Mhm.
What is the biggest money lesson that you've learned?
Ooh, the biggest money lesson that I've learned. That money comes from you. like you are the money you're looking for. I think we think money is this external thing that's outside of us, but I mean, we talk about definitions. Y'all took me back to MBA class. I was like, oh no. But if you look up the definition of money, it'll literally say it is a store of value. So I always tell people money is not anything per se. It's just a representation of the value that we're saying it's worth, right? So where does that value come from? It comes from people. And so if you're ever pressed for money or I got to figure out how to make more money, not really. You have to figure out how to create more value, and then you'll get those little green slips of paper that denote the value you created. So I say you are the money you're looking for. Like money comes from you.
I love it. So I got 2 final questions. First question, are you frugal or are you a flexer?
I'm like in between. I'm in between. I'm frugal on some stuff where I'm like, I don't care about that. I don't flex, but I like things like for me, just because I really like the experience, and I feel like that helps me lock in where I'm going to the next level. So perfect example, I was meeting with a friend celebrating her book launch, and also she's a business partner of mine in LA. And so my husband, that's his favorite city. So I was like, oh babe, you can come along. And again, I used my credit card points because I'm a huge points person. So we stayed at the Ritz-Carlton and it was really nice. But I was like, you know what? Why are we looking for a rental car on Enterprise? Like I'm gonna go on Turo and get a Porsche just because that's like I have a business goal in mind that when I hit it, I want the Porsche Taycan. So I was like,
we'll try it out.
Right. Yeah. So I was like, I'm gonna rent the Porsche Taycan just for us to tool around LA for the weekend. It'll be fun. And it wasn't like a flex, like, oh yeah, I could post this on Instagram or whatever. One, it was for me to get into the feeling of like, oh, this is what, like you hit that goal, like
Porsche owner.
This is what it's gonna feel like, right? So I like to lock in that like emotion, and then 2, I like to just take a breath and remind myself, like, this is why you work so hard. Like, you do get to have these fun activities. You do get to have these fun opportunities. Like, why not? So I say I'm in the middle. I'm not flexing for other people, but I do reward myself to help me keep going.
Gotcha. My last question is, do you have life insurance?
Yes, I have life insurance. I do. I have, we have term policies and all that, but I have whole life insurance policies. I do the high cash value, borrow against yourself. I have it for myself. I have it on my kids. I'm building up their policies. They're going to be like super rich by the time they're going to college. And, again, we talk about building generational wealth. Like, if you weren't born with it, you're either going to have to build it or you're going to have to buy it. And I'm doing both, right? I'm building it with my business. I'm buying it through life insurance. Like, I'm trying to set my kids up for what I didn't have.
I love it. Hey, once again, Women in History Month. She came with that fire. I love it. I love it.
Yes, indeed. Courtney, what you got? I was going to say, Courtney, I appreciate you so much for joining us on this episode. This has been a phenomenal one for everybody. Can you please let them know how they can tap in with you if they want to get in touch with you for the services, if they want to join the program, just everything. I'm
Courtney L. Sanders on everything. So you can go to youtube.com/Courtney L. Sanders if you want to check out my channel. I'm on Instagram, Courtney L. Sanders as well. You could type in Courtney Sanders on LinkedIn if you want to find me there. And actually offer a free training that talks about how you can take your wisdom and your expertise and turn it into a coaching business and replace your corporate salary. So that's totally free. If you want to tap into that, you just go to CourtneyLSanders.com/masterclass. That's it. You sign up for that, and then you'll learn more about how we train coaches to go through this process. So
I love it. Courtney, once again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. We're going to get into our final house cleaning parts of the show. Once again, thank you to everybody who stayed.
We love y'all
here with us to the end of this show. Y'all, please leave us a 5-star rating and review. It goes so long for us. It helps us increase our reach on our show, and we appreciate it. Once again, share it with a family member, friend who you feel could get some value from this. The final things that I want to get into is, once again, the Black Men Summit. Black Men Summit is going down. Atlanta, September 27th, 28th. Y'all meet us in Atlanta. This year, we are focusing on building brotherhood. Building brotherhood. If you don't have a brother, if you have a brother, y'all come out to the summit. We are empowering Black men. We're showing each other how we can hold one another accountable. We're showing each other how we can de-escalate situations. We're just making better Black men. So y'all go to blackmensummit.com. Y'all can get y'all tickets pre-sale half off right now. I don't know how long pre-sales are going to last for, but half off tickets, $75. $75, that's it. Y'all make sure y'all go to blackmensummit.com. If you got a brother, a son, or whatever, all ages, they can come. You got anything else, David?
Nah, man, that's it, man. Y'all pull up to the summit and stay tuned for the next one. We'll be back at you next week with some more Black Wealth podcasts, man. You know what I'm talking about. All right, until next time, this is David signing out.
Peace.